Have you ever wondered how Jesus spent the last week of his life? Now you don't have to. That's because we're going to spend some time together looking at Jesus' last few days. Where he went, what he did, why. And then we're going to ask a really important question. What does any of that have to do with us? Mark chapter 15, picking up in verse 25. It was 9 in the morning when they crucified him. The written notice of the charge against Jesus read, "The King of the Jews." They crucified 2 rebels with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, "So, you are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days. Come down from the cross and save yourself." In the same way, the chief priests and the teachers of the law mocked him among themselves. "He saved others," they said, "but he can't even save himself. Let this Messiah, this King of Israel, come down now from the cross that we may see and believe." Those crucified with him hurled insults. The Romans were professionals when it came to killing people, and crucifixion was one of the cruelest, most public, and shameful forms of execution they employed. The victims typically died from either physical trauma, loss of blood, shock, or suffocation from no longer having the strength to lift themselves up to breathe. It was a gruesome way to die, and most often reserved for slaves and the worst of criminals. Jesus' enemies, they mocked him to the very end. They taunted and derided him, they hurled insults, they publicly humiliated him. Jesus was given a robe and a crown of thorns for his head, a staff in his hand. Soldiers bowed down sarcastically, saying, "He saved others, but he can't even save himself." The tune has changed, hasn't it? See, less than a week ago, they were yelling, "Hosanna." Now they've nailed him to a cross. And Jesus' response? "Father, forgive them," he said, "for they do not know what they're doing." See, in the midst of suffering and torment, Jesus extends forgiveness. They don't understand. His refusal to save himself is precisely what made it possible for others to be saved. Coming down from the cross would have saved no one except for himself. But Jesus didn't come to be served. He came to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. Continuing in Mark 15, picking up in verse 33. At noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. And at 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of those standing near heard this, they said, "Listen, he's calling Elijah." Someone ran, filled a sponge with wine vinegar, put it on a staff, and offered it to Jesus to drink. "Now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to take him down," he said. With a loud cry, Jesus breathed his last. The curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. And when the centurion who stood there in front of Jesus saw how he died, he said, "Surely this man was the Son of God." Israel had wanted a king who would rescue them with power, with authority, maybe even violence on their behalf. But the cross was God's announcement that Jesus would rescue the world by dying for it. Jesus rescues with sacrificial love, not force. And the great irony is that in his death, Jesus becomes the king that Israel really needed. See, Jesus' death, it wasn't a tragic waste of life. It was a rescue. Do you believe that? Now, where do you struggle to believe? How does Jesus' sacrifice challenge you? How might you embody Jesus' sacrificial love for others in your own life? Thank Jesus for his deep love for you and for all of creation. Ask him to help you respond in faithfulness to him and others. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed that video. Make sure to hit like and subscribe so you can be notified when we post next.